Hello there, people of the internet. Today we're taking a look at the Krag Jorgensen rifle, which is what the United States adopted after they had the 1873 trapdoor Springfield. What I'm doing here is I'm going through everything in my arsenal, all of my individual pieces, and I am looking at the history and development and whatnot and trying to take them out to the range if I viably can. And I'm doing this in an effort to reach my way up to 100,000 subscribers. So if this video earns your subscription, fantastic. If not, then I'll have to go ahead and try again tomorrow because I'm trying to put out a video every single day. Doesn't always happen, but I am definitely trying my best. Okay, so the 1898 Krag Jorgensen is the version that we have here, but we're just going to go ahead and talk about the Krag Jorgensen in general. So the United States was using the 1873 trapdoor Springfield, which was a single-shot breech-loading firearm based off of the 1861 Springfield, and it was chambered in the 4570 cartridge, which was a 405 grain bullet that had 70 grains of black powder behind it. Well, the Krag Jorgensen, chambered in 3040 Krag, was actually a smokeless powder round. During the time period whenever this was adopted, smokeless powder had recently been invented by the French, and basically all militaries were trying to adopt a repeating rifle in smokeless powder that they could go ahead and utilize on the battlefields. And the United States decided to go with the Krag Jorgensen. So in 1892, that's when the trials were taking place for the adoption of the Krag Jorgensen. There were a lot of different versions of rifles that were in these trials. Ironic as it is, Mauser was also a part of these trials, and Mauser lost to the Krag Jorgensen. I have absolutely no idea why. In 1873, due to a lawsuit, there was actually some controversy as to whether or not the United States should adopt the Krag Jorgensen because it was a foreign design, and there was a lawsuit placed because several inventors and whatnot wanted a domestic designed rifle. So ultimately, the United States did agree to continue forward with the Krag Jorgensen. In 1894 to 1904, I think, there were approximately 500,000 of these made, a little bit less than that. I can't remember the exact round number off the top of my head. But there were quite a few of these made during that time period until the adoption and the replacement with the 1903 Springfield. So what this is it is a 3040 firing, which is a rimmed cartridge, 3040 Krag firing system. And this one is very, very unique because it actually loads from a capsule style magazine on the side of the receiver, as opposed to like a Mauser style magazine, which is underneath of the receiver, which is what most people would see nowadays. The original 3040 Krag cartridge was a 220 grain bullet that traveled about 2,000 feet per second, so substantially more powerful and more capable than the black powder loadings that existed before this time period. And these right here are 150 grain soft points. This right here is definitely a modern load, but this right here is an original 1898 Krag Jorgensen. But the side magazine right here, thank you, Kevin, the side magazine right here just pops open just like this, and all you do is you take your cartridges and you just kind of drop them into your side loading magazine. And once your cartridges have successfully made it in there, somehow, there we go, perfect, you just kind of close this up. And there's actually a spring inside of the magazine, which you can see right there retract and go forward. And that puts spring tension on the cartridges, so you can go ahead and cycle through your ammunition and continue to send lead down range. Now, the Krag Jorgensen does have a magazine cutoff on the side of the system, which is right here. I can't remember what is on and what is off. Let's go ahead and open this up and see if we can actually grab the cartridge. So yeah, that right there is on. So we're going to take our cartridge and bring it out real quick. So with the magazine cut off turned on to where the magazine is cut off, you cannot grab cartridges from the magazine because the bolt does not go back far enough. And so what that allows people to do is, well, you get to hold your magazine in reserve for emergency situations, but you can treat the rifle like a single shot rifle. Bring your bolt back, you're not going to strip rounds from your magazine, and you can just single load this thing by dropping a round into the chamber itself. And that was used to conserve ammunition. The military was very worried about wasting ammunition during that particular time period. And that was one of the ways that they were going to try and get around it. Now, later on, firearms technology was seen as, you know, hey, we don't need this. It's a waste of complex parts, and we don't need that extra nonsense going on with our rifles. So they did eventually get rid of the magazine cutoff system with later variants of military issued rifles, but the Krag Jorgensen had the magazine cutoff system. I don't know why I would ever use that myself as a civilian, but it is there and it does exist. So one thing I do want to say about the Krag Jorgensen, which I have heard my entire life, the action is incredibly buttery smooth, like overwhelmingly smooth. Like if you were to have 2 panes of like window pane glass and butter them up and rub them face to face against each other, that is a lot what this is like. So we're going to open this up. We're going to drop our other cartridge in there, just like that. Close it, and now we have 2 rounds reserved inside of our magazine. So if we decide to go ahead and turn the magazine cutoff system off to where we can access the magazine, we would be able to send lead downrange. Now, these right here were in service until it was seen just how dramatically better the Mauser system was, and that is where we branch off into the next military service rifle. So this particular one obviously has been sporterized, so the wood looks different on this one than what was actually issued. We do have a sporterized rear sight on this particular one as well. That right there just makes it easier for me to be able to see and make shots downrange. Speaking of making shots downrange, we're going to go ahead and send these rounds downrange. I only have a couple of rounds for the Krag Jorgensen because it's not very common ammunition to come across. But that's not going to stop us from sending some lead. So I got an old microwave downrange, and let's let's hit it with a couple of rounds. All right, so the 3040 Krag cartridge that the U.S. adopted, and the Krag Jorgensen was chambered in many, many different cartridges depending on what country of origin it is that we're talking about. But the 3040 Krag cartridge that the U.S. was utilizing during the time period had 40 grains of smokeless powder behind that projectile, which was absolutely like screaming back during this particular time period. But in way of what would precede it, is that the word I'm looking for? In way of later versions of different cartridges, like for example the 30-06, which came not too terribly long ago, or not too terribly long after the 3040 Krag Jorgensen cartridge was absolutely an anemic cartridge by every stretch of the imagination. And these ones are actually a little bit more anemic because these are a little bit undercharged rounds, so I get a little bit more life out of my brass as opposed to just, are those buzzards? Hopefully there's nothing in the field that I accidentally murdered. But these right here I undercharged just a little bit to go ahead and try to get a little bit more life out of my brass, because 3040 brass is not exactly the easiest thing to come across. So this is not going to be as powerful as normal. Oh boy, but that's still a pretty kicking round. All right, so there's one round. Go ahead and save that brass because that brass is reloadable. Absolutely buttery smooth action. I can't get over that. Let's send another round here. Ooh, that poor microwave. Now this ammunition is not as powerful as 30-06, but we still moved that microwave around down there. Okay, well, there's our couple of rounds. There are no speed loaders for this particular model, but there were versions of speed loaders that were made for the Krag Jorgensen to where you could open this up and like speed load ammunition in. In the particular case of the US model 1898 that I have here, all you do is you just kind of grab your handful of cartridges and you dump them in there, and that is how you reload. Whenever you run through your cartridges and you're out of ammo, open that up, toss more in, close it, and continue to go to town. In theory, if something like stripper clips didn't exist, and well, there's theories as to whether or not this would be a good system in comparison to some other systems. If stripper clips did not exist and you were only focused on like single loading cartridges, then having a system like this right here would be a lot faster because there's no spring tension that you got to fight against. You just kind of drop your rounds into your magazine, close it, and then you are ready to continue to handle whatever situation it is that you're looking to handle. But the stripper clip definitely made that version obsolete, and well, these rifles were notorious for not being as good as some Mauser variants, and we saw that in some U.S. conflicts and some U.S. situations. In particular, whenever the 3040 Krag went up against the 7mm Mauser, the United States did not fare very well in that conflict. But anyway, that's a story for another video. Actually, it was the 7mm Mauser that the 30-06 is based off of, which is just a really cool, interesting little tidbit piece of information. So, yeah, the United States was like, all right, this rifle's not doing it. We're going to go ahead and go towards the Mauser, and that's whenever the 1903 was adopted. And that will be probably our next video. So thanks for watching, folks. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see y'all in the next video. Yep, I hear Tractor Guy coming back, so that means that I am done with the range until he leaves.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.